Welcome back. All right, so I've done a season preview for all of the teams in the National Hockey League, right? I've talked about which players I think could have breakthrough seasons and all that fun stuff, and I will be looking at some of that too before the season gets started. But I wanted to look at things as we now sit 11 days out from the start of the regular season, and again, I want to talk about this from a perspective of talking about how everything's going to get going in 11 days and what to expect. So for returning viewers, for new viewers, hopefully there's something for everybody in this video. Starting off at 1, and how reviews evolved into recaps. And I wanted to start with this because I didn't used to review every game. I didn't used to review games every day. I would just talk about hockey. I would just talk about stuff going on. And in the beginning, I would watch maybe a game here and there. I'd pick a game a night kind of thing. But it evolved into I needed to watch all of the games, because if I'm going to report on all 30 teams, which became 31, now 32, I need to watch games that all those teams are involved in, right? So it makes sense for me to do that. And so they eventually evolved into recaps because when it started out, I was just talking about, who'd scored and who I thought had played well. But then there were a lot of comments of, well, you didn't really watch the game because. So I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to have to watch every game. I'll take notes, right? So I'll take notes, put those notes in between the goals and things that happen, key moments during a game or things of interest. And when there's only one game on, I can get into the minutia, I can get into everything and get into the changes of momentum and this kind of thing. And I saw a lot of appreciative comments from people who maybe had missed the games that night or the night before. There were also comments about, well, you need to watch all the highlight packages before you do the reviews. The problem being that if I'm watching all the highlight reel packages as well, that the reviews will go up a lot later. So the longer videos as well, so once we get into the regular season, there will be reviews that are 40 plus minutes. There will be reviews that might be as long as 50 minutes or longer. For whatever reason, when you're watching videos of that length on your phone, it seems to be on the phone through the app, the audio will not work when they initially go live. It's hit and miss. Sometimes it's fine, sometimes it's not. And sometimes there's issues with processing on the channel as well, so I may post those longer reviews on my backup channel, The Entertainment Guy, as just so I can go to bed for the night and say, okay, so that's stuck processing. I'm going to upload it to The Entertainment Guy. It'll go live there. So that does happen during the regular season. It's not frequent, but it does, where a video will just get stuck processing. And so there will be audio issues. There might be, and again, I need to start those as soon as the final game ends. So the final games are usually out of California. Those ones start at 7:30 my time. They'll end at around 10 o'clock my time. And as soon as that game's done, I fire up the webcam immediately, and I'm doing the review right away. So I've seen people say, well, he's got this all done right away. Right, I've got all the notes, everything's on the board and done. Now, what that does mean is there's times where the NHL will adjust shot totals after the game is done. So the shot totals I may have on the game, the stats I have for the goaltender, may end up being incompatible with what they actually have for the final stats. That also includes assists, goals changed, that kind of thing. But again, if a game's done at 7 o'clock and they're going to change one of the goals after the game is done, I'm not overly concerned because my review doesn't actually change NHL totals. Little known fact, doesn't change the NHL totals. And so as soon as that game's done, I get that review recorded because, again, with the longer reviews, I know there's the possibility there being issues, and I want to make sure it's up as soon as possible after the games are done. Power rankings are staying on every Saturday night. I debated about moving it away from Saturday night because Saturday is usually a very busy day in the National Hockey League. So it's a long review that may have issues with the audio. Then I have to do the power rankings, which is a longer video as well, which I don't think has had an issue with audio. They're short enough that the audio is not... It seems like around the half-hour mark, and power rankings normally aren't longer than half an hour. But having them on Saturdays does mean that I go to bed pretty late on Saturday nights, but it's just that's the way that works. I very often do the Sunday preview on Saturday as well. I'm probably going to record those earlier in the day, though, find time to do the previews earlier in the day and then have it go live on the channel early on Sunday morning. So the power rankings will be staying on Saturday night. They will begin immediately after that first game. So the games overseas, I'm not going to do a power rankings just based on San Jose and Nashville, unless I do something fun there where I just do two teams for the power rankings. This is how things are coming out of Prague. But Yeah, they're staying every Saturday night, and once all the teams have started playing, you just do it, and then there's usually the most movement early in the season as teams get settled out, and then it settles down the rest of the way. There's 2 Canuck games I'm going to this year. I'm going to a game against the Kings. I'm going to the game against Anaheim. Those are both in Vancouver. We're going to the preseason game against Seattle, which isn't really a big deal because preseason, so whatever else is going on that night is fine. And we also have a 3 days grace concert we're going to, so that night I'm not going to be watching games because we'll be at a concert. And then there's a Disneyland trip that we've got planned out for ourselves, for the kids, which will be end of January, early February. Why? Because that's the All-Star break. When Yvonne said, well, what time would work? I said, All-Star break works because there aren't hockey games going on. The All-Star game itself is often kind of a miss. So that's the nights that I will be missing games. I won't be seeing those games that night. And that happens. Of course, we have season tickets for the Abbotsford Canucks, so there are nights that I go, but usually it is Yvonne will take 1 or 2 of the kids to the Abbotsford game to watch what the Abbey Canucks are doing, and then she lets me know when she comes home, did they play well, did they not, who stood out to her, that kind of thing. She doesn't do reviews. I've joked around with her, like, hey, you could do a review, and she's like, no. So she understands, like, nope, we're not doing that. But, the Abbotsford games are entertaining. AHL games in general are entertaining. So if NHL ticket prices scare you off, and if you have an AHL team nearby, I highly recommend those games. They're quite good. Now, days without games this year. So these are days where, at least at this point, the NHL schedule doesn't have anything planned. Sunday, October 16th, so that's right out of the gate. Saturday's a very busy night. Monday's actually pretty busy as well, so Sunday doesn't have a game. Then there's Thursday, November 24th. December 24th through 26th will be the Christmas break this year. So it feels like it should be longer than 3 days, and sometimes it feels like it is, but it's not. It's only 3 days. February 2nd through 5th is for the All-Star break. So again, that's why we're going to Disneyland on, I think it's on the 31st, and then we come home on the 5th. So, and then games get going right away after that. Now, Friday, April 7th is also a day without a game. And this is subject to change. Games can move around. And the season is scheduled to end on April 13th. So we'll be back to a more normal schedule this year when it comes to start and end date for the NHL. UFA Day returns to July 1st next summer. So the unrestricted free agency, the free agent frenzy, it's always nice when it's on July 1st because at least being Canadian, that's a holiday for us. And Canada Day being a day of free agency has always been fun. And before I had a channel, I would actually take that day off. I took off the days for the draft. At least for round 1, I would take off the day for the draft, and I would take off July 1st. Now, oddly enough, those are the days that I'm usually on camera the most, so it's kind of gone the other way. Trade deadline, I searched and hunted around, appears to be on Friday, March the 3rd this year. So, yeah, trade deadline day is usually pretty busy as well. Trade deadline day was one I used to take off too. I used to schedule my days off for my old job around what was going on in the NHL. So, crazy. It's like, well, you could go on holiday. No, I'm just going to take days off to watch what's going on in the National Hockey League. So, yeah, Friday, March 3rd is scheduled to be trade deadline day. So, jersey ads have been discussed. Now, I've talked somewhat about them here and there. I'm not a fan. I'm really not a fan. And I've seen, too, that it looks like Minnesota's selling them at the retail level, the jerseys with the ads on them. I had been told that that wasn't going to be the case at the retail level, that you would have the option. And that the default would be that even at the team store, that at the team store the default would be blank jerseys and that the ads would be on there if you requested them. And I remember thinking, who's going to want the ad patch on there? I mean, there are some that might, but who would? So 11 teams, including Toronto with the milk ad, which is odd. I can imagine there'll be some spilled milk jokes about the Leafs this year, but 11 so far that have been announced, but eventually it's going to be every team. And I understand there are some teams who've gone and said no, but if you look at the no statement, it doesn't say we will never have this on here, just we're not participating at this point. Reverse retros release in November at a retail level for us to buy. I'm really hoping that they're released publicly soon in terms of what they look like, because Bill Daly in an interview said the leaks bother them. They don't like the leaks, but that it doesn't push up the date for when they're going to do the reveal. How about you do the reveal before people have these jerseys in their hands and they can leak the design? I know, crazy idea, right? But yeah, so those release in November. The expectation is they're going to sell like crazy this year. So we'll see whether or not it's just one run or if they're going to do multiple runs. I haven't heard either way, so we'll see. There are 11 new coaches in the National Hockey League this year. There are 2 new GMs, although one of them technically is that Joe Sakic was promoted to president. So it's the same situation we've seen in Vegas where George McPhee got promoted, but you still feel like in the end he's probably calling a lot of the shots in Vegas. I would expect that Joe Sakic will still be calling a lot of the shots in Colorado. So the Coyotes are also playing out of what is now being called Mullet Arena in Arizona. One will notice I have not talked about the fact it's called Mullet Arena because on some level I'm kind of thinking that's a joke, right? They're trolling us, right? Apparently not, but it is an entertaining way to go about it, and hopefully they do well. Honestly, I hope they do well. I mean, it's a 5,000 seat arena, and I understand that people are going to be upset about it for the next few years. But it's the situation we're in, so we'll see how things go, and that's the one arena change for this year. The Sabres, of course, bringing back the goat head. Apparently, there's going to be 2 different because there's going to be the reverse retro, which is supposed to have the goat head on the front too. So if you're a Sabres fan that's been hoping to find a goat head jersey, time is upon you right now, and you'll have a choice between likely the blue one, which will be the reverse retro, or the red one, which has already been kind of released and shown, and here we go. And a little minor changes from the goat head they had 20 years ago, but yeah, so that's happening. The Canes, their black third jersey with the double flag is now their official home jersey. I'm waiting on when the away jersey, which of course was recently changed to Canes, the word mark, when we're going to see a white version of that double flag jersey from Carolina, and how long it takes before that becomes the away jersey, right? The Oilers, of course, going back to their blue jerseys, which I don't like, and it's weird because it's not that long ago they went to the orange ones, and they made it clear that they felt like that was a unique look to Edmonton, and this was something that was, branding that they felt worked for the team, and now they're going back to blue. My guess is jersey sales. When I see changes happen that quickly, I'm thinking, okay, so maybe the jerseys weren't moving, or merchandise in general wasn't moving as fast as they wanted it to, so they've gone back to the blue, or they just got tired of fans asking for the blue ones. I certainly prefer the blue ones to the orange ones. The Sharks, of course, with their updated home and aways, which leaked before the team announced them because they were put out for retail sale before they were announced. So again, this is something the NHL has going on. And I don't know if it happens in other sports. I don't know how often, but it feels like with the NHL, it's every single time. Oh, there's new jerseys coming out. Yeah, we know. We already saw the leak. Vegas, of course, now their home jerseys will be the gold jerseys. Their gray jerseys or charcoal jerseys become the third jersey for Vegas, and we'll see how well they do wearing the gold. Please wear the gold helmets with the gold jerseys. I've said it before. I'm saying it again. Please. Because if they wear the gray jerseys and they have the gold helmets, when I do the reviews, I mention it every time because it's just weird looking. So, key dates this year. Winter Classic is January 2nd at Fenway. It feels weird that it's January 2nd and not January 1st. And much like last year, the Winter Classic is not alone. It is not the only game on that day. So, it's Pittsburgh versus Boston at Fenway. And Stadium Series is February 18th at Carter Finley after being delayed last year. Now being delayed into this year, it's Washington versus Carolina. And speaking of leaks, Carolina, there was a leaked jersey last year that was said to be the stadium jersey, and it probably is. So I would think it's not going to change. It's very unlikely that it's going to change, but we'll see whether or not that leaked jersey ends up matching what the stadium jersey actually is. And everybody acts surprised. They're going to make a big deal of it. Everybody really needs to act surprised. Put on your shocked face and say, bravo, great, fantastic, right? Just think of it like when you're a kid and, you see the Christmas presents before Christmas, but you can't really say anything because you don't want to get in trouble. So Christmas morning, you got to, make a big deal of it. Make a big deal when the team does the reveal there. The All-Star Game is February 4th at Florida Live Arena. Of course, that's in Sunrise, the home of the Florida Panthers. And so that should be, fun to see what happens and with the various competitions they have in terms of shooting accuracy and all that. It won't be as unique. I wouldn't think it'll be as unique as what they did in Vegas, but maybe I'm selling the Sunrise area short. Maybe they'll come up with something really creative. They won't have the Bellagio fountains for a backdrop, though. I don't think you can move those from Las Vegas to Sunrise between now and February. So yeah, there you go. Kind of like a season preview for all you fine people on the internet, for this channel, for the NHL season, and for what we're about to go into starting in 11 days' time with those games overseas, which are just kind of a warm-up for the main event, which starts on October 11th with 2 games in the National Hockey League that night, and there'll be a doubleheader both on Sportsnet north of the border and on, I believe it's on TNT south of the border, but we have plenty of time to get ready for that, and I'm looking forward to it. So let me know your thoughts, and what are you most looking forward to this year? I know there will be people who say things like, I look forward to the Maple Leafs golfing, I look forward to the Canucks not making it, I look forward to, and I know there's going to be a lot of that negativity, but what positive thing, unless you view that as positive, what positive thing are you looking forward to most this season? Are you looking forward to seeing how Colorado does in defense of their Stanley Cup? That's why I'm wearing abs, because they won the Stanley Cup. Now they get to try to defend it, and they get to go through all these games to try to figure it out. And then, of course, next June we'll know whether or not they get it, as the Stanley Cup will be awarded late in June, and we will have the draft in June and then free agency in July, which is, I think, how it's meant to be. It feels like this is going to be more of a normal season, the first one we've had since 2018, 2019. So I feel very fortunate for that and to be here to report on all that for you. So thank you guys so much. You saw a bit of a preview of sorts last night for eagle-eyed viewers. I was using the new magnets for the goals in the Vancouver Calgary review that I did. So those are the style of magnets I'll be using in a lot of the reviews. But I've got various styles and stuff because in the off-season I do tend to beef up the magnet collection so that there's a little bit of a different look in reviews, because I know it can get kind of repetitive. Hey, for me reporting on it, it can get kind of repetitive. So I try to just change things up a little bit. So there you go. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. And as always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I will talk to you again soon.